Caleb Wilson has all the confidence in the world, but it ain't cocky. It's for good reason.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Friday, September 26th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making us your first listener watch to get your Friday going the right way. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like the Tar Heels, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later on for highlights from this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. I want to welcome in all the everydayers who are here, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and of course, our great insiders as well. If you want to join any of those groups, the links, man, they're right there in the show notes. Here's where we're headed today on the show. We are coming to the end of the first week of practice for the basketball team, and now just 1 week out from the blue-white scrimmage. Caleb Wilson recently did an interview with the Carolina Insider podcast with Jones Angel, the voice of the Tar Heels, as well as Adam Lucas, and it was yet another reminder of how special this young man is going to be, both mentally and physically, and we're going to look at both sides of that equation today. CBS Sports recently called Bill Belichick a, quote, disastrous hire. Boy, that's wildly premature. We're going to talk about that. ACC made a football scheduling decision change this week, but it ain't fully fleshed out yet. That's kind of weird, and we'll have our weekend whip around, of course, because it's a Friday, and that's what we do. All right, let's talk Caleb Wilson. And as I said, I want to start about the mental side of things for him, because while he is a freshman and he comes in, you're like, oh man, it's going to take some time to get acclimated and do all this stuff. This dude has a both confidence and a maturity that to me belie his young age. Let's start with the confidence side of that. As Caleb Wilson has this conversation with Jones and Adam, and if you haven't watched it or listened to it, I'd encourage you to go do so. It's a phenomenal interview. They do a great job with those interviews. And Caleb just talks about all of these things that he's going to do, that he's, both on the court and how he's preparing for it. And it comes across, maybe if you're unaware, as very almost overly confident. But the thing is, it's not overly confident. It's not misplaced. It's not arrogant. It's not cocky. It's not braggadocious. It's just fact. It's truth. And it's all because he has worked his butt off tirelessly and continues to do so, I should say, so that he's like, no, this is just what's going to happen. It's so matter of fact, and I love it. I think we so often think when an athlete or anyone speaks highly of their skill, it's automatically a cockiness. But it doesn't have to be that. It can just be born out of, no, this is just, I'm very good because I've put the time in. And so I think, to the contrary, good for you, Caleb Wilson, right? Like, so in an age where so many young people are so entitled to things, and if that person was speaking in this way, I would call that arrogance or cockiness, because it's misguided. Not with Caleb. In fact, he even says to the guys, quote, if I wasn't working hard, I wouldn't say any of this. If I wasn't working hard at being better every day and working on exactly what I'm telling you I'm good at, I wouldn't be talking like this, end quote. I love that. So there's this recognition like, no. I'm only talking this way because I know it's true. If it wasn't true, I wouldn't even say it. And another part of this confidence that I love is that it's because he's been able to work on all these various aspects of his game. And here's what I mean. Caleb Wilson, you might or might not be aware, played with the Boozer twins, not this summer, but last summer on the AAU circuit for EYBL. That's Nike's AAU circuit. They played on the Knight Riders together and won everything. They won the Peach Jam Championship, beating, oh, by the way, AJ Devanza and Tyron Stokes, who's like top of the class of 26 along the way to that championship. And one of the things that, if you were keeping up with that, you know that Caleb did was he kind of, not that he didn't do anything offensively, but he was like, hey, we've got Cam and he's phenomenal. Cam Boozer, that is. So what I'm going to do is I'm really going to dial in on my defense. And I'm going to pour into that so I can find other ways to affect the game. So that was another area where he just went to the lab, went to work. And what I love about that, both the confidence of I can do this and the maturity that it shows, and this will switch us into now talking about the maturity side of things, is that Caleb is just somebody that wants to come in and win. It doesn't matter how he contributes or, whether that's scoring a bunch, whether that's shutting the opponent down, whatever it is. He just wants to help his basketball team win a whole bunch of games. And man, that is so refreshing to me to hear from anyone, but especially a true freshman. And so that confidence, again, born out of work. But also, as I said, I want to talk about this maturity that he has that belies his age. Going back to the idea of work, he talked about like, hey, your work is always going to show. But he said, if I go out in the first game this year, whether that being one of the exhibition games like the game at BYU or game 1 of the regular season at home against Central Arkansas, he says, quote, so if I go out the first game, rough game, I know that I put in the work and I know I'm going to be back better the next game, end quote. I don't even know that I, at 41 years old, have that sort of maturity. Right? Like you go out and you have a bad performance and you get down on yourself. Everyone in the media, of course, is dumping on you because apparently you have to be perfect every game all the time. And I get that. That's my job, is to say what I'm noticing in a game. But I love that Caleb is saying, look, that happens sometimes. That's sports. Your body isn't going to do everything you intend it to do every game. I'm not going to hit all my shots every game. I'm going to miss a defensive assignment here or there. But I love that he also has the wherewithal and the maturity to understand that, yes, I'm not going to always have a great performance, but when I don't, because of that work I've put in that we just talked about, there are better days ahead. Caleb Wilson understands that, assuming the world doesn't end and assuming he's still alive, there's always going to be a tomorrow. There's always going to be a next game. And especially for him, who's so talented, this isn't going to end with college, for example. And so just to be able to recognize, like, I think about, like, I coach my son's Little League team, and how many kids do I have on that team or teams of the past that, they strike out and just pout and moan and come back to the dugout whimpering and whining and crying, or I have to go pull them off the mound because they reached their pitching limit and it's like the world has ended, right? And I know they're obviously much younger than Caleb, but it's that difference. If Caleb was in that position, it's kind of like, I struck out, but I learned a lot about that pitcher and I'm going to get him next time. That's the mindset that he has. And the other thing about that is, even though, yes, he's a freshman, that kind of mindset goes to your entire team. So I think about, a player that was at Carolina last year that had some emotional immaturity. And I thought that kind of fed throughout the rest of the team at times. Caleb is bringing a different vibe to that, and that matters. That's going to matter on the floor. And as part of it too, the last part of this maturity and confidence I want to talk about is Jones and Adam asked him about the expectations on him. Do these weigh on you? And again, maturity. I loved his response. He said, no, I feel like pressure is self-applied. He said, and this is a great analogy from Caleb. Let's say a school assignment, man. I'm getting ready for a test, for example. And as long as I've prepared for it, there's no pressure because I know I'm ready. I'm prepared. And so I don't feel pressure. I just got to go out and do what I've prepared to do. I might not always do my very best, but I should be close to it. And so he said, whatever's going to happen is going to happen, but I feel like it'll be good because of the work I've put in. Caleb Wilson is mentally ready for the rigors of college basketball. The question then now is, how does all that play out on the court? How does that play out physically? Well, let's switch sides now, and we'll go from talking about the mental side of all this to talking about the physical side of things. Caleb Wilson, going to be a dude at Carolina. We'll talk about that in just a second. Right after I tell you about Mazda. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, they move culture, and they keep the game moving forward. And this week's moment is going to be going back to the football game last week, and defensive back Will Hardy, who has been patiently waiting his turn at Carolina, had 8 total tackles in what was, yes, a frustrating loss down in Orlando to UCF. But he and Caleb Cost tied for the team lead with 7 solo tackles, which matches the most in a game by a Tar Heel this year. I just love to see that for Will. He's moving the game forward for himself and for the Tar Heels. It's great stuff. So when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. We were just looking at the mental makeup of Caleb Wilson, who again just continues to impress me at wild levels. As I listened to this interview, I just found myself smiling and giddy because he's a special breed, man, and somebody that you're really going to love this year for Carolina. But now I want to switch and talk about the physical attributes, because if the mental's there and I've done all the work, well, that's great. But if I'm, Isaac Schade and I'm 5'10" and don't have nearly the skill and haven't put the time in, it doesn't matter. But with Caleb, you need to know that he is truly supremely talented and has all the physical skill sets. Brendan Marks, who does a great job covering the Tar Heels and national college basketball, works for The Athletic, recently wrote an article where he was unpacking an overview of who he believes will be the 11 main contributors for North Carolina this year. In his Caleb Wilson blurb, he began the whole thing by saying, quote, "One person close to the program told me that Wilson is easily," and that's the key word for me, easily the best pro prospect UNC has had in the Hubert Davis era, end quote. And that's something, right? Like you think about some of the guys that have come in the Hubert Davis era, Drake Powell last year and Ian Jackson and Elliot Cadeau. And man, it's just easily, he was told, the best pro prospect UNC has had in the Davis era. And that's a big deal. And I want to start going back to that defense that we talked about in the last segment when he really decided to buckle down on that, because I think that's part of what makes him easily the best pro prospect, is that he is doing it two-way, right? We've talked about, and I don't mean this negatively against Ian, but last year, Ian Jackson, obviously a phenomenally talented offensive player, but I said it a lot in the preseason and it proved to be true. He is not all dialed in on the defensive side of the ball. And I think we saw that play out. And so again, that's going to be something that he'll grow. He'll learn and do better, but Caleb already has that. As he talked with Jones and Adam, the thing he said on defense is, "I feel like I am a great defender. On ball, I can stay with a guard." Interesting. "I feel like I play very good defense without fouling. I feel like I'm just good all around defensively. Switching, off ball, I've gotten much better with the team this year, just knowing I've got to focus on details, stay in a stance, and continue to talk constantly." At least three critical things I want to point out here. Number one, on ball, I can stay with the guard. One of the things in this modern age, whether it's NBA or college, is you've got to be switchable as a big. Or if you're small, you got to be switchable to a big so you can defend your own. For Caleb, obviously, he's going to be able to defend the 4. Some people project him more as a 3. If the shooting comes along, he can guard that. He can guard up to the 5, depending on, bulk and the size, but at least a possession here or there. And then the question becomes the 1s and 2s. But because of Caleb's supreme athleticism, who, going back to Brendan Marks' article, says that he thinks Caleb truly challenges Seth for best athlete on the team. And so the ability for Hubert Davis to be able to say, I can use my power forward and I can switch at least 1 through 4 and allow him to be on guards, that's a great sign, man. And that's a very encouraging thing. The second thing out of this is I feel like I can play very good defense without fouling. Man, that's so critical, because it's not, like, for any of you who have played basketball, this. If you haven't, defense is really all about your feet more than your hands. And so Caleb using let's go back to Leaky Black. One of the things that was so phenomenal about Leaky was it wasn't that he had to get steals or blocks, which are the things everyone looks at, the box score lookers, to see how good a defender you are. Defense is so often about your positioning and being in the right place early. And that's one of the things that Leaky did so well. Caleb's talking about that, right? Like, I'm going to use my feet. I'm going to be able to slide and move horizontally and vertically on the court to be able to defend without fouling. And man, I like you think about, Carolina had some struggles with that last year in the backcourt, for example, of Elliott getting in foul trouble so often, right? Like, if Caleb's able to come in and truly do that, that's going to matter, especially in the front court, where Carolina, is so often trying to foul out a front court's the opposition's front court, man, if Caleb can do that, that's really, really, really good. And then the last thing I want to take away from this is Caleb saying, continue to talk constantly. And I just hear Hubert Davis ringing in my ears of what he said last year about Carolina's either unwillingness or inability to talk. And if they will do that more this year, that this has a potential to be a very, very good defensive team. And I've said this quite a bit this offseason, but let's remember back to 2 years ago when Carolina was a 1 seed. So much of that was because of what they were able to do on the defensive end. And the way that Caleb Wilson and Henri Veesaar, and let's not forget that Jarin Stevenson is a very good defender. That might be the biggest thing he brings to this team. This front court could be very, very good defensively. And if so, just think about that rim protection, for example, that Carolina didn't have last year. They've got that from both Caleb and Henri, and then Jarin when he comes in. And so that matters. In fact, Caleb also said, defensively, I feel like I'm a maniac. I compete in every aspect of basketball, and I feel like defense is where you can compete the most. And man, that statement alone, even just recognizing that as a freshman, matters. So we'll see how Caleb's able to contribute defensively, but there are some really good signs that things will go very well. Offensively, let's switch to the other side of the floor, where Caleb is going to bring a lot. He is well-rounded. It's funny, he is going to be able to step out and shoot and hit from beyond the arc, but I don't think that's the area where we should really truly focus. Like, he's a guy that wants to get to the rim. He wants to dunk and dunk ferociously. I remember him saying as part of this interview, hey, like, the reason you see all these clips of me dunking so much in practice is because I got to get it past like Henri and Jarin because they're really good defensively. But he said to Adam and Jones, quote, I can't wait to dunk on someone. That's one of my favorite things. I attack the rim ferociously. Somebody's got to make a decision. And I love that. Like, that's just going back to that mindset where he is a killer, dude. He wants to end you. Somebody's got to make a decision, meaning a decision to, do I want to be on a poster with Caleb Wilson dunking all over me, or do I want to make a business decision and just get out of the way and let him have his 2 points? But Caleb's been working with Sean May a lot around the rim, working on his float game, or his hook game to get that going. But also, one of the things that I think is going to be really interesting about this team in its entirety, there's a lot of fear and consternation for people that, hey, Kyan Evans isn't a pass-first true point guard in the way that Elliot Cadeau is, or in the way that a Kendall Marshall was. And so, oh gosh, where's all that playmaking going to come from? Well, Kyan can do a lot of that and will do a lot of that. Seth Trimble can do that. Luka Bogavac, we are told, is a good passer. We've seen some of that in some of his tape from Europe. But Caleb says, I've been working on passing with both hands so that I can be unpredictable. Brendan Marks said in his article that I referenced earlier, dating back to his grassroots days, his being Caleb, I've always thought Wilson was a solid, frankly, underrated passer. And so if he's able to do that, and honestly, Henri has some passing. If this can be a team of guys willingly sharing the ball, finding each other in good space, Caleb's going to be part of that. And I think there's a lot there. In fact, as he talks offensively, he said, quote, I can do a lot of things offensively too. I feel like people don't know that, and I love it. I love the fact that people don't know what I can do, and I love that people underestimate our team because I feel like me and the team have a lot to prove and show. And that's where it all culminates for me. I've continued to say I think this team is being slept on. And I understand it because at this point, there's quite frankly no reason to give the benefit of the doubt to the roller coaster that's been the Hubert Davis era. I loved how Brendan Marks put it in that article. He said the goal this year is to flatten the roller coaster. We just got a nice, gentle, what's that ride in Tomorrowland at Magic Kingdom where you just go around and around? It's like that kind of thing. We're not looking for Space Mountain. We're looking for the flat ride. That's what we're trying to go for here. But man, Caleb going to contribute in massive ways, offensively and defensively. And we already talked about the mental side. I just think that with what he brings and the way that goes together with all the other skill sets at play, this team could be very, very good. Well, CBS jumping the gun a little bit here, calling Bill Belichick's hire a, quote, disastrous hire. We're 4 games in. What are we doing here? Plus, a big shift in ACC scheduling. And, of course, we got the Project 28 weekend whip around all coming up for you in just a second. Right after I tell you about DoorDash, y'all, it's almost the weekend, and that means it's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, brought to you by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, this player delivered when it mattered most, and I want to break it down. For the Heels, that's Max Johnson, who for the second time this season now has had to step in a moment and deliver in a big way after Gio Lopez goes out hurt. And, honestly, it's been a whirlwind for Max Johnson. He goes from being QB1 last year, having that gruesome injury, working his way all the way back, and right now he's QB2. But there could be a world where he's moving into QB1. And Saturday in the loss down at UCF, when his number was called, Max stepped in 11 of 19 and a touchdown in the second half of the game. When the pressure was on, Max came through. There was no hesitation and no delay. And just like he delivered for the Heels, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. And with DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. So order this Saturday, keep that streak alive, and fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply, and the promo period runs all the way through November 18th. This episode's also brought 5-Hour Energy. Y'all, caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-Hour Energy shots delivered tasty caffeine in 17 bold different flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. I love most how just kind of portable it is to just kind of have your little 5-Hour Energy shot. Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere and get that boost when you need it. I've been kind of looking around at the current flavors going on. I know this is kind of funny sounding, but the purple berry punch, that seems really cool. I think that's the perfect one for me to try next. Honestly, I love how fast 5-Hour Energy kicks in, and especially that it's sugar-free. I'm getting a little bit older, I'm trying to keep my sugar, watch it, and how much I have, and I also don't want to crash later. So enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. Time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-Hour Energy Boost shots. Get the favorites you love, or be bold and try something new in store and online at 5hourenergy.com or at Amazon today. Now, okay. On Wednesday, CBS Sports put out an article by, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, Shahan Raja. And it was basically like a year one progress reports on the first year coaches in FBS football. Or not just FBS, but in Division I. As unshockingly, Bill Belichick leads this article because everyone leads everything with Bill Belichick right now because it's Bill Belichick. And Shahan gives coach an F in his progress report. 0 problems with that. Things have not gone well. Carolina has been blasted in their 2 games against Power 4 competition, getting outscored 82-23. But here's what he says, and this is where my issue is the way he frames that F. He says, quote, Belichick took on a major project when he decided to transition from NFL to the college level for the first time in his career. Accurate statement. Agree. But here's where things go off the rails for me. 4 games in, it looks like one of the most disastrous hires in recent memory. Disastrous hires. It's 4 games. 4 games. Why on earth is that the phrase we're pulling out? Is that clicks and view? And I get that, right? Because that's part of the game. But, I mean, that feels wildly egregious and wildly premature to call this disastrous. Sure, maybe 3 years in, if it's going this same way, if things haven't changed and you're getting blitzed by the Power 4 schools you're playing, sure. But the man hasn't coached a conference game yet. We're a week away from Bill Belichick ever having coached a single conference game. But it's a disastrous hire. Okay, cool. Again, if this is further into it, next year, things still are going poorly. Call it what you want, buddy. Call it what you want. But right now, I think it's, hey, things have been really bad so far, but Bill Belichick, has an opportunity to turn things around. And also, let's consider the context of all of it, shall we? Because I don't think that had any role to play in this, calling it a disastrous hire. Bill Belichick hired and announced after the portal was already open. Bill Belichick, 70 new players, which I know part of that is of his own doing, right? Deciding to have all that. But I feel like a statement like this does nothing to take context into consideration. And that's fine. It's your article. You do what you want to do. But disastrous hire is wildly overstated and wildly premature. We got to do better. Come on. The ACC earlier this week announced that they were going to join the rest of the Power Four and update to 9 conference games in football coming up next year or the year after. Right now, as you may or may not be aware, in football, there's 12 regular season games. Right now for the ACC, 8 of those are played as conference games. So for Carolina this year, that was TCU and Charlotte and Richmond, and then last week UCF. And then the whole rest of the season is 8 ACC games. So the ACC is joining the other 3 Power 4 conferences, have already made that move, the SEC most recently doing so. But they're also taking a step that not all, has not taken this step yet. The ACC is going to be required to play 9 ACC games plus against another Power 4 opponent. So 10 of your 12 games have to be Power 4 level or Notre Dame. And we'll get to that in a second. And then the other 2 can be whomever you want. Whatever FCS schools or, a group of 5 mid-major-ish type schools. The weird thing for the ACC is that because of the 17 teams, because of football, remember, Notre Dame is not fully part of the ACC like they are in other sports. This math doesn't math. And so one of the possibilities is that one school would have to play 8 games instead of 9. The very simple solution to this is to get Notre Dame into the conference, which, probably a when hell freezes over kind of thing. If they've not done it yet, it's not going to happen. I know we went in, they were more officially part of the ACC in COVID, but whatever. So this is clearly the move. You got to do it. But why go ahead and roll it out if it's a half-hatched idea where you don't even know how you're going to deal with the odd number of teams, how you don't even know yet which year it's going to be? And so there's all of this with this rollout. I think it's wise. I think it's the best decision for a conference that's behind the SEC and Big Ten in terms of football and stuff, and typically, I guess, behind the Big 12 as well. But this year looking better, right? With Miami and Florida State seeming to be legit. We'll see about Georgia Tech. Maybe they're legit. But there you go. That's the most recent scheduling update for ACC football. And we'll see how they're going to handle one school not being able to play 9 games. They got to figure out a plan for that. All right. Time for the Project 28 weekend whip around. Obviously, football off this week before hosting Clemson next Saturday. And then remember, an hour after that is the blue-white scrimmage. Women's soccer actually played on Wednesday evening up in South Bend, funny enough. And Fighting Irish are number 2 in the nation. Carolina puts up a good fight, but loses 4-3. A late goal made it seem a little closer than it was. So now the Tar Heels fall to 7-4, 1-2 in ACC play. Going to have to get a few things figured out. They're ranked 22nd right now, and we'll see if that holds after the loss. Men's soccer 4-1-3. 0-3 in ACC play. Yes, they've literally tied all 3 ACC games they've played. Currently not ranked, and they're at number 12 Virginia on Saturday, 7 p.m. on ACC Network Extra. That game could go a long way, man. Get a dub there. But you know what? It's probably going to be another tie. Let's be honest. That's the way it's going. Field hockey, man. The ladies just are an absolute juggernaut. Didn't play midweek this week, but are at 13 Wake today, 5 p.m. on ACC Network Extra, and then at Boston College on Sunday at noon on ACC Network. So we're going to have to take a big road trip after Friday's match. Right now, they're second in the nation behind Northwestern, 8-0 overall, 2-0 in ACC play, and playing yet another top 15 opponent. It's absolutely crazy. Volleyball 7-2, haven't started ACC play yet, but that changes this weekend. They host Wake today at 7 p.m. on ACC Network, and then host State Sunday at 1 p.m. also on both of which are on ACC Network Extra. And the ladies right now are ranked 25th. Cross country off this weekend, and then they'll get back into action again next weekend. So there you go. There's the weekend whip around. Obviously, some out of season sports have been doing some stuff, golf and tennis as well, but we just try to stick to what's actually in season right now with that. All right, guys, hope you have a great weekend. No football game, but we'll be back at it next week. I'm getting ready for Clemson, getting ready for the blue-white scrimmage. We'll have our Seth Trimble player preview is next week, so lots of great content to be ready for as well. If you haven't subscribed to the show on video and audio, do that right now so you don't miss a single second of Locked On Tar Heels. If you haven't joined the Discord or the Insiders program, man, we'd love to see you in one or both of those places. A great way to go deeper and next level with the show. You guys, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again on Monday, but until then, peace.